Would religion
Wait, he is engaged in Taqqiyah. Okay. He's engaged in Taqqiyah.
That's not the truth.
Yeah, it is.
I am telling you the truth as it is.
Dissimulating
is what? Just so we know.
It is the ability
to lie, basically.
To
that's
lie,
what he means.
to advance the faith of Islam.
By radicals, and you can't deny it. And you may, for all I know, not be the moderate you pretend to be, because you may be engaging in Taqqiyah and be engaging in lying for the purpose of furthering your religion. Why should I believe you?
Lies. Just to lie, again, and to say that which is not in agreement with the truth, to be double-faced, and so on and so forth. Because in their religion, they're allowed to lie while swearing by Allah. This is how bad it is. And so the ulama said they are the biggest liars the Ummah has ever known. The biggest liar the Ummah has ever known are these individuals, because they lie so much and their religion is based on lies. How are you going to deal with them?
Long-lasting and pressing questions have remained unclear around the concept of Taqqiyah, causing many inflammatory statements and feelings. Taqqiyah, known as dissimulation, has been taken out of context and misinterpreted ever since its existence. We examine this concept and ask some of the most common questions that conventionally arise.
Taqqiyah is an act of wisdom when it is required to save the life or dignity or property of the believer or believers by not coming openly with everything that we believe in. And Taqqiyah, in fact, comes with the logic that we as human beings should always try to avoid danger and avoid harm which is not necessary to be faced by us. Sometimes there is no Taqqiyah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala did not have the Taqqiyah. But not all the situations of the life like Karbala. Taqqiyah is the wisdom of saying the suitable or behaving the suitable behavior in the specific situation by not coming out openly with everything that we believe in for the interest of the believer or the community.
Taqqiyah comes from the Arabic derivatives such as tuqa, yattaqi, or taqa, which essentially means to defend, to protect, to safeguard, to fear. In Islamic teachings, Taqqiyah is to save one's life, honor, or property when one is fearing that they may be lost. This involves concealing one's belief and faith and thereby preserving the sanctity of human life.
History of Taqqiyah go back to religions before Islam, and we can get many stories from Quran, as the story of Ashab al-Kahf, the cave men, and Prophet Ibrahim, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. We can go in summary through these stories. But the evidence of Taqqiyah is the intellectual evidence, as each being every kind of, even the plants sometimes when they fear that there is a danger, they may go around in a way to protect themselves either from sun or from any danger or endanger cause which might threaten them.
All of God's creation, as far as the plants and the animals, as well as humans, practice this concealment for survival. You look at certain plants, that indeed are ones that conceal themselves amongst other plants. You find animals such and insects and others, and reptiles such as lizards, who find, for instance, places that they can camouflage themselves in order to ensure their protection. Hence, it is something that is practiced and seen and rationally accepted by all. It is not specific to the religion of Islam. It is applicable to all human beings, and it is dictated by common sense. If we today were to ask somebody a question, that if someone was to come and wanted to kill a Muslim that we may know about and would ask us where this person is, where can I find them? Would we say to them where that person is or not? And of course the reply would be that we would not. We do not wish that person to be killed. How about if that person to be killed was ourselves? If we are in a dangerous position, surely rationality dictates that we have to preserve our own lives by indeed practicing taqiyya and concealing our faith so that indeed life is preserved. Remembering that this idea is also present in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And at the same time, there are prophets of God who practiced this type of concealment, this taqiyya known as dissimulation. So dissimulation, for instance, was practiced by Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. When they came to him and said that you need to come with us and go to the outside celebration, but he remained. And he said to them, for instance, Inni saqim, I am ill. Or Yusuf alayhi salam with his father, when his father said, do not tell your brothers about the dream that you saw. Or for instance, the mother of Moses, peace be upon them, when it came to identifying the son that was placed of hers, Musa, in the river Nile, and Pharaoh had taken him, of course, they would not identify themselves as the family of Moses, but they would feed him. Hence, it is rationally accepted.
When Allah created the human beings and gave them logic and intellect and reason, the reason says that you should not say or behave in a way which can bring damage to you or to your community. And taqiyya is not only a religious practice merely. We have got practices which are merely religious. Of course, we believe that every religious practice is based on logic, but taqiyya is a logical principle. That's why you find people from different faiths, even people who have no religion. As a human being, they don't say everything they know everywhere and in every situation. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his holy progeny, in Mecca, he did practice taqiyya. And Ahlulbayt alayhim salam practiced taqiyya. And they ordered the believers to practice taqiyya whenever taqiyya is required.
The Holy Quran addresses taqiyya in various verses, and in some cases concealment is praised. Yet although that is the case, many people nevertheless deny the permissibility of the usage of taqiyya today. We extract some verses that indicate some of the stories whereby taqiyya was practiced and discuss their importance in reference to some authentic hadiths.
A number of Quranic verses are cited by Muslim theologians and scholars when it comes to supporting the belief in taqiyya, dissimulation. One is found in chapter 3, verses 28 to 29, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يتخذ المؤمنون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين. That the believers should never take the non-believers as guardians or those with authority over the believers. Because sometimes what happens is people go to non-believers for advice or to take them as people who they should follow at the expense of believers. And then the Quran says, وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَلَيْسَ مِنَ اللَّهِ فِي شَيْءٍ. Indeed, whoever does this, Allah has nothing to do with them. إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَاتٍ. Except if this scenario happens where taqiyya is being practiced. Notice how many times this particular derivative of taqiyya is used. تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَاتٍ. Except if you're going through dissimulation. And at the same time, you'll find in the story of Ammar ibn Yasir, in chapter 16, verse 106, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Man kafara billahi min ba'di imanih. Whomsoever disbelieves in God after his belief, illa man ukriha wa qalbuhu mutma'innun bil iman. Except of the one who is forced somehow whilst his heart is full of belief. And indeed, the permission is given here for this practice to take place.
So these are clear verses in the Quran about taqiyya, beside the verses about the practice of taqiyya by the prophets like Ibrahim alayhi salam.
There is a strong plethora of ahadith that are found in support of the belief in taqiyya and dissimulation. For instance, the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings be upon him and his holy progeny, states, La deena liman la taqiyyata lah. Whomsoever does not practice taqiyya or does not believe in taqiyya, indeed there is no religion for them. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam is narrated to have stated, At-taqiyyatu min dini wa dinu abai. That when it comes to taqiyya, it constitutes part of my religion and the religion of my forefathers. وَلَا إِيمَانَ لِمَنْ لَا تَقِيَّةَ لَهُ. That whomsoever does not believe in taqiyya has undermined belief and iman. Likewise, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam would say, تسعة أعشار الدين في التقية. 9/10 of religion is found in taqiyya. The emphasis is profound and is quite strong that we see that taqiyya is highlighted here. And the question is why? Why is there so much encouragement on this particular practice? And the reason is the fact that we have the religion of Islam today is because of taqiyya. It's because during the time of the Holy Prophet, for instance, the 13 years that they were in Mecca, Rasulullah with the Muslims, they practiced taqiyya. Is the fact that during the time of Imam Sadiq and the Imams after him, taqiyya was practiced widely to preserve the teachings of the Ahlulbayt, the pure, pristine teachings of the religion of Islam. Hence, taqiyya is essential. It's a Quranic concept which is validated, and indeed one that should be practiced if an individual fears for their life and therefore they would conceal their faith.
The Holy Prophet, his da'wah was in secret. Ad-da'wah kanat sirriya, in secret for 3 years. And this is the best example, أفضل مصداق, the best example of the application of taqiyya. And most of the Anbiya, not only Prophet, all Anbiya, they begin their propagation, their da'wah, their tabligh, their mission in secret. If we go through other stories, even Nuh, as I mentioned, Ibrahim, Jesus, Isa, all of them, and all of them are examples of the usage of at-taqiyya.
That our worst enemies are not those who are trying to kill us, but those who claim to be our followers, yet don't practice taqiyya, because they give people evidence or reason to come and kill us and kill our followers.
There are many misconceptions which have circulated the notion of taqiyya due to differences in opinion. This has created an ongoing disagreement, and therefore, in the following segment, we dissect some of the major misconceptions.
There are many misconceptions about taqiyya. In fact, the enemies of Ahlulbayt claim that taqiyya is a sort of lying, which is completely wrong. It is not lying. It is the wisdom. The Prophet himself was not lying when he was in taqiyya during his stay in Mecca. The Prophet Ibrahim was not lying when he used to do taqiyya. All our infallible Imams were not lying when they used to practice taqiyya. Taqqiyah is not lying. Taqqiyah is the practice of wisdom. This is one. We tell them that if Taqqiyah was lying, then why Allah is telling us in Quran, إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَاتٍ إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. The verses in Quran about Taqqiyah. So, this is one of the misconceptions from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Some people nowadays claim that time of Taqqiyah is gone. Now there is no place for Taqqiyah in our life. That is also another wrong, very dangerous wrong. Because Taqqiyah will remain till the day of judgment. Taqqiyah will remain till the day of judgment. إلى يوم القيامة. So, Taqqiyah is must. No one can claim that Taqqiyah's time is over. Some people wrongly think that Taqqiyah means they leave their obligatories, like he does not pray Salah at all because of what he thinks Taqqiyah. No. You pray your Salah. Don't leave your Salah. If you are among people that you cannot perform your Salah properly as it should be performed, perform Salah like them. Hold your hands. Do it like them. You are performing Salah under Taqqiyah situation, but don't leave your Salah.
One of the common misconceptions is that Taqqiyah constitutes a form of lying, uttering of falsehood, and not speaking the truth. And the way we respond to this is by stating that indeed when Islam emphasizes the sanctity of the life of the Muslim, we believe, and the Quran affirms this, that in certain instances one is able to practice this because there is a bigger, more important objective. Just like how the Quran, for instance, states that eating of swine and drinking of alcohol is forbidden. Yet today Muslims are in agreement that if an individual was in the desert by themselves, all alone, hungry or thirsty, then if there is no food other than, for instance, pork, or there is no drink other than alcohol, then they are allowed to drink a small amount to safeguard their lives. In other words, they must not be the source of destruction of their lives because of non-existence of whatever that is halal. Hence, at times of desperation, one needs to look at what safeguards and saves our lives. And this is also the case when we fear for our lives and the lives of others, where dissimulation is then permitted and can be practiced. Another misconception that exists is that Taqqiyah tantamounts to hypocrisy, nifaq. There are, of course, 4 categories when it comes to the relationship between speech and action of a human being. An individual who has a belief in their hearts and also acts in accordance to this belief is a believer. An individual who is a disbeliever in their hearts, but when they pretend that they're believers, those are hypocrites. An individual who does not believe in their hearts and at the same time actions in accordance with that, in other words, they do not practice nor do they believe, they're a disbeliever. But the 4th category is no, if a person, a human being, a male or female who believes, but for certain reasons does not speak that, and sometimes speaks the opposite for a goal in accordance with certain conditions and restrictions, that is what Taqqiyah is. So Taqqiyah is distinguished from hypocrisy. Taqqiyah is the presence of belief in the heart. Taqqiyah does not necessarily mean that an individual continuously practices hypocrisy. By far, this is not the idea. The idea is simply to ensure that there is a well-being and the preservation of life, which is considered important.
Lying is telling false story for no reason. Taqqiyah is hiding the good thing inside ourselves and showing something different for a noble reason in order to protect ourselves. And this is, as I may need to explain that part of it came from the la darar and the la haraj and la whatever, where there are qawa'id fiqhiyya used in Islam. Always when there is a darar, when there is harm on anyone, he is allowed to do whatever to protect himself. This is also kind of taqqiyah, also kind of protecting ourselves from harm.
Is well known among the followers of Ahlulbayt, but it exists in all the Islamic schools of thought. They don't say it, and they always finger at us, that we are the people who practice taqqiyah. But they also, and not only the other Islamic schools of thought, every follower of any religion, everyone practices taqqiyah. But they don't give the name of taqqiyah. It is exactly, the practice is same. Nowadays, you find Wahhabis who are on the same line of Al-Qaeda. But when they speak in public, in the West, they speak against Al-Qaeda. In their own private meetings, they are with Al-Qaeda. Why they speak in public against Al-Qaeda and try to distance themselves from Al-Qaeda? Taqqiyah. They want to show something to save themselves. So, the taqqiyah is being practiced by every human being. But we practice taqqiyah not only because it is logic, but also it is ibadah. For us, we do it for the sake of Allah, because we've been ordered to practice taqqiyah, and we obey the order in practicing taqqiyah.
The belief in dissimulation or taqqiyah is not only one that is restricted to the madhab of Ahlulbayt, the followers of Ahlulbayt, but rather a number of scholars from the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah have come forward to affirm the need to practice taqqiyah when it is required. For instance, we have Allama Qurtubi in his book Al-Jami' li Ahkam al-Quran. In volume 10, he has mentioned that taqqiyah is indeed something which is permissible. Likewise, Ibn Kathir, who is a Shafi'i scholar, in his tafsir in volume 2, page 609, at the same time has affirmed the legitimacy of taqqiyah. Fakhruddin al-Razi in his Tafsir al-Kabir, volume 20, page 121. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in his famous book Fath al-Bari, volume 1, page 264. And the list continues, simply because of the rational acceptance of the idea of concealing one's faith at times of danger and at times of difficulty. You'll find that this practice is not reserved only for the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, but within the religion of Islam, and even outside it is accepted and as well practiced.
There are so many sages, especially nowadays, for what's happening to the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Until recently, I'm sure we all have heard what has happened to them in different parts of the world. So when anyone fear or had the feeling that these things might happen to him, I think he should use taqqiyah. When we feel that he's surrounded with danger, when he's surrounded with the enemies of Islam, he's surrounded with some kind of narrow-minded people, I think taqqiyah should be used.
Nowadays, like any time, when there are enemies of the true Islam, you cannot come out with your whole faith in front of the enemies. That will cause disasters. That will put our small communities in a big danger. They can be slaughtered. So, the Muslims who are living in non-Muslim communities or countries, in small minorities, in villages, in small places, in pockets, they must perform taqqiyah to save themselves. And the followers of Ahlulbayt, wherever they live, they always should practice taqiyya to save either themselves or others. I mean, if we are living in a safe society, that does not mean that all the followers of Ahlulbayt are living on the same situation. We should think about those who are living in a different situation and they are under the sword of the enemies.
Taqqiyah is something that should be practiced at any opportunity or at any time where it needs to be. So if today we are confronted in a situation whereby we fear for our lives and the lives of others, and we need to conceal our faiths, then we do so. Likewise, there are degrees of taqqiyah and dissimulation. There is one which is known as the reconciliatory taqqiyah, which means that we do not necessarily must mention all of our beliefs publicly if we understand that some of these that we acknowledge may in a shape or form alienate and create friction and dissension, especially amongst the Muslim Ummah and the other Muslim communities. And one example that has been cited by our scholars, for instance, is the fact that there are some Muslim leaders that we, when we study history objectively, might not look at favorably. But there is, of course, no need for us to come out and to, in a very insulting way, put them down simply because of the conclusion that we have reached. Therefore, taqqiyah has a time, it has a place, but can be practiced whenever it needs to be in order to fulfill the overall objective.
Taqqiyah, actually, we've got 5 types of taqqiyah according to what's called al-ahkam al-khamsa. Al-wujub versus al-hurma, al-istihbab versus al-karaha, and then al-ibaha. The haram taqiyya is at-taqiyya fi ad-dima. If someone is going to be killed, we are not allowed to use taqiyya and let him die. Like we are not allowed to tell different story and then he got killed because of taqiyya. This is the haram taqiyya. Otherwise, taqiyya is allowed, and as I said, sometimes it's compulsory, wajib, others it's mustahab, highly recommended.
If an individual noticed widespread oppression, if a human being recognized that through taqqiyah the lives of other human beings would be at stake, if an individual recognized that without making their voices heard, indeed the religion of Islam and its spread and preservation would be in danger, then certainly dissimulation should not be practiced. Look at the example of Imam al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, that he noticed the corrupt nature and the tyrannical rule of Yazid ibn Muawiyah, and he stood to change and to instigate this process of revolt against this ruthless caliph. Likewise, Sayyida Fatima salamullahi alayha also recognized the need to speak out and to demand for her right when it comes to fadak and everything else. When we come to, for instance, Sheikh al-Mudaffar in his famous book Aqaid al-Imamiyya, he says that taqqiyah is not permissible in a number of circumstances and situations. Number one, if it results in the killing of another sacred, innocent soul. So for instance, we have a judge who practices taqqiyah in order to save his life, but this action will result in somebody else losing theirs who are innocent. This is not permissible. Number two, fasadan fi ad-din, if it causes corruption in terms of practice of faith. Number three, ضررا بالغا على المسلمين بإضلالهم, if it is a extensive hardship or harm that will be inflicted upon the Muslims. And number four, إفشاء الظلم أو الجور, if it is involving by taqqiyah we result in the spreading of corruption and oppression, then taqqiyah must not be practiced.
You see, taqqiyah has got many benefits. There is a book written by one of our respected scholars. In that book, he has enlisted 18 different dimensions of the great benefits of Taqqiyah. No doubt, Taqqiyah also helps in making the Muslim Ummah more harmonized. That does not mean that we are compromising our faith. Our faith remains, but we don't need to come out with the whole faith in front of anyone. Allah, the Glorious in Quran, tells us not to come out with our Islamic faith in front of non-believers who will respond attacking our faith and abusing Allah. Allah says in Quran, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. When you say the whole truth in front of those who worship someone else, not Allah, they will get angry and they will attack Islam and they will abuse Allah. Don't do that. We are not compromising our faith, but we are not saying anything which goes against wisdom. Our faith remains, and we should always try to strengthen our faith. Right is right, wrong is wrong, but Taqqiyah does not change anything in our faith. It is a matter of practicing the wisdom up to what extent you are allowed to disclose if there is a possible danger.
The story of Ammar. Ammar stays alive, and Ammar did a lot to Islam and to the Holy Prophet, to the message of the Prophet and to Amir al-Mu'mineen. So probably the idea behind Taqqiyah is that when we protect ourselves and keep ourselves for a reason, for a day where we may do better and give more, rather than just finish our life. Because life is the best gift Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to a human being. And we need to maintain it and keep it. And that's why Allah asks us to follow Taqqiyah, not because it's a matter of conspiracy or trying to show people something, but because this life has got specific meaning. We have a specific role in this society. We need to do the best to the Ummah. So if we think that we can do something better later on, there is no problem. We use Taqqiyah, and I'm sure the guy who is using Taqqiyah will be able to give more to the Ummah and to the society he lives in.
Islam is a religion of tolerance, and Islam emphasizes the need for us to reflect and to use the power of the intellect. Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, when he gave his famous advice and his will to his son Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba salamullahi alayhi, he stated وَقُولَا بِالْحَقِّ. قُولَا بِالْحَقِّ is not translated as say the truth, because the letter ba is used by Imam. Ba is ba'ut tab'id, which means that when you have the truth, make sure that what you state is indeed selective in accordance to the group or the community you are addressing. If you know information and you have some knowledge, you do not come out and speak of it at any place, at any group. In other words, Imam alayhi salam says, be careful and be an intelligent human being when you speak to others, because the goal is bigger, the objective is grand. Hence, sometimes Taqqiyah can be used to invite people toward the madhab of Ahlulbayt, and indeed it can be used for the sake of unity, but we are certainly not compromising our beliefs. We are tolerating and respecting others by ensuring that we do not disrespect and insult personalities that those individuals themselves have grown to respect, honor, and revere.
The well-known companion of the Prophet and the faithful companion of the Prophet, he was being forced to show the non-believers in Mecca something, or to say something. And he did say that. But he remained mu'min. So if you don't show your full faith to the enemies, you are not disbeliever at all. You are a believer, because Allah knows what is in your heart. And Allah knows that you did what you did just out of Taqqiyah. You are trying to save yourself or others. So you become good believer, in fact. You become very high-ranked believer when you practice Taqqiyah in the proper way.
There's no doubt that Taqqiyah must be practiced in accordance with the conditions and the circumstances that are clearly stipulated. In other words, the fear of one's life, property, or honor. And at the same time, there is this false accusation and misconception that is targeted towards the followers of Ahlulbayt, despite other schools of thought agreeing and coming with the conclusion that Taqqiyah is permissible and the Quran has validated it. Yet the school of Ahlulbayt and the followers are often ridiculed and mocked, and at the same time accused that when they speak, they are always practicing Taqqiyah. The answer to this is simple. Our books are present. Our texts are there. Our teachings are available for people to come and see. If when we speak to others, we are accused of practicing Taqqiyah, despite denying this, then one would be able to reach the teachings of the madhab of Ahlul Bayt through looking at our texts, through looking at the books, through looking at the wealth of knowledge that has been passed on from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam towards the ulama and has reached us today. Yet at the same time, we categorically deny and we reject this notion and this suggestion by certain individuals that when it comes to speaking to a Shia or the madhab or followers of madhab Ahlul Bayt, they are continuously practicing Taqqiyah. Taqqiyah is only performed or practiced at the time of fear. And in most cases, when we sit ourselves in dialogue, certainly in places and in countries where peaceful coexistence is encouraged and people are able to safeguard their security, and they will not be persecuted, killed, or imprisoned just because of their belief, just because of their madhab, then you'll find that there is no need for the practice of Taqqiyah and dissimulation.
We tell them that we are not lying, we are following the way of all the prophets. People want to accuse us. Even the Prophet was being accused. The Prophet was being called Kadhabun Ashar by the enemies of the Prophet. So the enemies of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, let them say whatever they want to say. Allah knows who is the truthful and who is the liar. Look at Islam without Taqqiyah. Just imagine it. If the Prophet did not practice Taqqiyah in Mecca, Islam would have been finished. If the infallible Imams from Imam Ali alayhi salam till today, Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, if they did not practice Taqqiyah, real Islam would have been finished. Taqqiyah is the protection, the shell. And even in the hadith we have got at-taqiyyatu junnatul mu'min, means the taqiyya is the shell of the believer. So it is not lying, but it is practicing the wisdom for the noble cause of saving the believers. They say, yet you are lying. We say, no. In Islam, Allah gives us permission when someone is dying and there's no food but only non-halal food. It becomes compulsory on him to eat from that non-halal food to save his life. That non-halal food, which is not allowed to be consumed in the usual situation, it becomes compulsory to save life, to eat, not to die. Taqqiyah is to save lives and to save dignity and to save community from the dangers. When there is no benefit from facing the danger, we must practice Taqqiyah, and all the followers of Ahlulbayt must practice it, abiding Allah and the Prophet and Ahlulbayt. And by practicing Taqqiyah, the da'wah means the invitation of non-believers to Islam, and those who don't know Ahlul Bayt, inviting them to real Islam, will continue. Without Taqqiyah, the da'wah will stop, because everyone will turn enemy to us. And by Taqqiyah, we can convey the message, we can invite people to the real Islam with a tactful way, with wisdom, and we don't need to face people in a dose of truth which is more than their ability to consume or to accept, because that big dose will react in a very bad way against us. So in all dimensions, Taqqiyah is the absolute wisdom and the order from Allah and the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt to all the believers.
Often life situations dictate that a person conceals some of their beliefs in order to avoid offending others and cause damage between communities. The benefits of Taqqiyah are undermined and misunderstood, hence the frequent accusations. Wisdom begs that we understand when it is the right time to employ Taqqiyah and ensure that we promote brotherhood rather than ignite disunity. Observing the methods of logical dialogue and tolerance safeguards our humanity and religion. Observing the methods of logical dialogue and tolerance safeguards our humanity and religion. Thus we come to the conclusion that Taqqiyah is deemed to have an utmost significance in the religion of Islam, and due to its importance, it comes with a responsibility.
Ahlulbayt TV, the holy household for every household.